All right, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing all right. Hope you're doing well. And so I just wanted to say welcome to my art class. I bet you're wondering, who is this guy? Hello, that's me. I'm Mr. Reese. The picture that you're looking at is an avatar that I made this summer with my Xbox. And so my kids think it's freaky how much that looks like me. So yes, I have long hair and I have a beard and I usually wear Hawaiian shirts. That's me. I teach art here at Cypress Falls High School. To tell you a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. And when I was looking at old pictures of family in the family album, I found this one. I thought I'd share that with you. When I was little, my dad always liked to have sports cars. And so in this photograph right here, we see a 1975 Triumph that he had and the 61 Porsche that he had. So it was always nice when I was growing up having cool cars like that. This past summer, I bought a game called Forza Horizon 4, and you can get like just about any kind of car in that game, and they had a lot of cars that were like his. So, and even some that were exactly the same car as what he had. So I was able to drive my dad's cars in the game, which was fun. All right, showing you some old pictures of me. Yes, it's okay to laugh at these pictures. First grade through eighth grade, and you can see that in eighth grade, I learned how to stop smiling, and that's kind of my personality nowadays. Um, for ninth and tenth grade, I went to school in California, and I don't know if you've ever been to California, but their high schools are a lot different. Um, because California has such nice weather, their classrooms are more outdoors. So it's kind of like a college campus that you're walking from one building to the next, and their lockers are all outside. Some of my students that have been to school in California usually agree with this that their school buildings are a different kind of architecture than what we have here in Texas. All right, that's a picture of me when I was in ninth grade, and then that's me in 10th grade. I moved back to Houston for 11th and 12th grade, and I attended school at Robert E. Lee High School in Houston. That's over by like Westheimer and Fondren, I think. When I was in high school, I had a 1975 Chevy Camaro, and that's a muscle car right there. It had a V8. It was a very fast car, and I missed that car a lot. I had it for about 3 or 4 years. This is me when I graduated high school. My parents are shaking hands because they couldn't believe that I was graduating. After leaving high school, I went and moved into Corpus Christi, and I went to Del Mar College. It's a small college in Corpus. The photograph that you're looking at is the art building at Del Mar, where I spent almost all of my time when I was there. One of the great things about being in Corpus Christi and the apartment that I had is our apartment looked out over the bay in Corpus Christi. And so that the view that you're looking at is the view that I had from my apartment. It was really nice living in Corpus Christi. And one of the highlights of living in Corpus Christi is, going to school there is I was selected by my sculpture professor to help him and to apprentice with him during the summer and help him make some marble sculptures. So that's me on the left. That's the sculpture professor on the right. And we are working together on that marble sculpture of abstract shapes. And so that's me using a pneumatic hammer and chisel um, to carve. And so it's like when you see road construction and you see people with jackhammers breaking up the concrete, it's like a miniature version of that. After going to school at Del Mar College, I transferred to University of Texas at Austin, and that is a photograph of the art building at UT where I spent most of my time. And I graduated from UT in 1994. And then I went back to school in 2011 through 2013, but I did it all online. And this time I went to A&M. And my college experience for that, it just looks like a computer. And I guess that's kind of like what it's looking like nowadays with COVID and everybody doing their schooling online, that your school just looks like a computer or a laptop. A long time ago, I once went skydiving. So that's me on the left, and that's the skydiving teacher on the right, and that's the plane that we went up in. Uh, so we went, yes, we went all the way up, and I jumped out of the plane. We went tandem, so that means that the skydiver was attached to my back, and he pulled the ripcord, and we parachuted together. And I know that looks like a smile on my face, but it wasn't. I was absolutely terrified. That's just the wind pushing my face up to make it look like I was smiling. In 1994, I met the woman that was to become my wife, and a year later, I married her. Um, and I started teaching in 1997 in Tulsa Public Schools up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I moved back to Houston and I taught at Lamar High School over in HISD from 2000 to 2004. And then in 2004, I moved over here to Cypress Falls, and that's where I've been teaching ever since. I have two little girls. So that's me with my little girls, reading them the night before Christmas for Christmas Eve. Um, that's my younger daughter. She's in eighth grade now. That's a kind of an old picture. And then my old daughter just started college this year, and so we're dealing with that, going to college online. I had three dogs at the beginning of the summer. Now I have one. So this is was Tex, our big dog, and he was an ugly, ugly dog. He had teeth that went in different directions. He had skin allergies, so his skin was all like messed up, and his fur was missing and patches on his back, and his hind legs were taller than his front legs, so it looked like he was always walking downhill. He was an ugly dog, but he was a smart dog. You know, I had him trained so that when I came home, instead of him jumping up on me, he would sit and shake my hand. So he was a good dog. But he reached to be about 15 years old, and we had to put him down just because he was just getting too old and couldn't really function. And then that's our Chihuahua that I have. I never in my life ever thought I would have a small dog, but having a wife and two daughters, I got outvoted and they got a small dog, this Chihuahua. That's our little princess. And this was her throne that we had in one of the living rooms in our house. We had a big beanbag chair, and then they put the soft princess blanket on it. And this is where the dog spent all of its time in the summertime. And then this is what it looks like when you wake her up from an afternoon nap. And then our other dog died suddenly this summer from kidney failure. And but this was our really happy dog. This was our dog that was full of life, and it was really tough on the family when the dog died this summer. And it was a total shock and a surprise. I used to be into biking. I done some bicycle races, not races, but tours. And this was the MS 150. And so this is a bike ride that goes all the way from Houston. This is Houston over here to Austin. So I ride, and the first day was about 85 miles that I rode, and the second day was 62 miles that I rode my bike. It was really brutal and it was really tough. One of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. But I'm glad I did it. Uh, and also to tell you a little bit about myself, I love science fiction and watching sci-fi movies. So like things like Star Wars, and I like old sci-fi movies like Forbidden Planet. Now that I mentioned Star Wars, there's a lot in the Star Wars universe, and I both love and hate Star Wars. Um, excuse me. In about let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six. I absolutely love Clone Wars and the original Star Wars and Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels, and recently The Mandalorian. That was really awesome. And then there's a lot of Star Wars that has good stuff and it has bad stuff, so it's kind of meh. And then the new movies that have come out recently, I really cannot stand them. And then for streaming, we have Amazon Prime Video because my wife likes to order things online, and when you have Amazon Prime, you get to order for free. And then we can't afford all of the streaming services, so we just gonna have to rotate. So like we'll start with Netflix, and then when we get sick of Netflix, we'll get Hulu, and then we'll discontinue Netflix, and then we'll keep going around. Like then we'll jump over to Disney and discontinue Hulu, and then we'll jump over to HBO, and then we'll jump over to DC Universe. That was just for me though. And then my wife is from England, so we get BritBox, which is a lot of British television, and then we'll circle around to Netflix. Um, I love the Marvel movies that have been coming out in the last like 10 years or so. I love, like the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, and all those movies are really, really awesome, and I just absolutely love them. Um, Growing up in the 70s, it was hard to imagine how superhero movies could be made, but with computer graphics getting really good nowadays, you can make great superhero movies. My only problem is that I was raised on DC and like Batman, Superman, that kind of stuff, and I've always been a DC fan my whole life, and it's hard for me seeing all these wonderful Marvel movies being made while the DC movies are not that great. So for like I was raised on Super Friends. That's a Saturday morning cartoon show I used to watch when I was little. And they used to have like a New Adventures of Batman show back in the 70s and 80s. And the old Batman, I used to watch in reruns, and I used to watch Wonder Woman. And Shazam was one of my favorite TV shows when I was a kid. And so DC's done a couple of good movies, like The Dark Knight was amazing, and the new Shazam movie is amazing. But most of their movies are really not very good. But what DC does really well is they do their animated movies. That stuff is awesome. On Netflix, I really like the Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Punisher shows. These were really amazing on Netflix. And I love comedies. Anything that's really silly and stupid, I like them. And then I like zombie stuff. I like The Walking Dead. And one of my all time favorite zombie movies is Return of the Living Dead. As far as art's one of my all time favorite things. I just love art, and I love looking at famous paintings. So this is one of my all time favorite paintings. It's the Oath of the Horatii, and it's three Roman soldiers pledging their allegiance, and their sisters and or wives are sad over on the right side because their husbands and brothers are going off to war. This is Liberty Leading the People, a great and energetic work of art. And this one is one of my all-time favorites. It's called The Raft of Medusa, and it has an amazing story behind it. I like abstract art. I like art that's just pretty to look at. I love all like the curves in this painting, like the curves in the hair and on the fabric of the dress and the gloves. And then I love art that has a lot of energy and movement in it, like this one. It just looks like these people are just kind of swimming around each other. And then I make art. I like to draw portraits. So these are a couple of my drawings that I've done. I can draw realistically. And then sometimes I like to distort the faces of people that I draw. And I like to change things up a little bit, make things kind of weird and silly. This drawing I did with a pen, like a Bic pen. So that's all done with ink. My students really like this one that I did. Skulls are cool. And then here's a Valentine's Day drawing I did for my wife. Gave her that. And then one last thing I want to tell you about myself is that I don't emote well. So it's one of the things that I should really work on. So I just kind of have a blank expression on my face. And a lot of students tell me, late in the course that they're intimidated. When they were first in my class, they were intimidated by this. But so when I'm, that's what I look like when I'm happy, when I'm angry, when I'm sad, when I'm excited. So just know that about me. Just because I may look angry doesn't mean I am angry. I could maybe be happy instead. So, um, anyways, I've told you a lot about me. So now I think it's time for you to tell me about yourself.